And he said also, he said to the fifth patriarch said to the sixth patriarch, if you continue to hand it down to your successor, your life will be in danger. People will be angry at you. So leave this place as quickly as you can, because someone might do you harm. Then the sixth patriarch, he said, where should I go? Then he said, you should stop it away and seclude yourself at a Wui. So then he was taken to the mouth of the river to catch a boat. And the fifth patriarch accompanied him to this place called Kui Kwang and ordered him into a boat. And he got in a boat. And he started to do the rowing himself. The fifth patriarch actually was rowing, but the sixth patriarch said, no, I will row. It's only right for me to carry you across. But the sixth patriarch said, while I'm under illusion, it is for you to get me across, but after enlightenment, I should cross it by myself. That's another important point. When we are under illusion, when we are ignorant, we need a teacher to take us across the swiftly flowing river of ignorance and desire and anger and desire. We need the teacher's grace. We say in English, grace, to take us across, because we cannot do it ourselves. We are too ignorant. We are too much caught in our illusion. But once we get across, then we can continue by ourselves. We can row the boat ourselves. So this is another, again, symbolic. While I'm under illusion is for you to get me across, but after enlightenment, I should cross it by myself. Since I am now enlightened, it is only right for me to cross the sea of birth and death and by myself, by realizing my own true nature. And then the fifth patriarch, he agreed. He said, quite so, quite so. Beginning from you, Buddhism, meaning Zen, will become very popular. 3 years after your departure from me, I shall leave this world. He said, 3 years later, I will die. He already knew. Now I give you Dharma. 3 years later, I will die. And you may start on your journey now. Go as fast as you can towards the south. Do not preach too soon. As Buddhism, Zen is not so easily spread. So he gave him little warning. He said, don't start to preach too soon. Don't start to give lectures quickly. Then he said goodbye and he went to the south. And after about 2 months, he reached Taiyu Mountain. And after he returned to his temple, the fifth patriarch, this is the fifth patriarch, he did not attend assembly for several days. He did not go for meals, and he did not come out. And the monks were very curious, and they asked, our great teacher is rarely sick and seldom unhappy. Are you ill? Then the fifth patriarch said, there is no sickness, but the Dharma and the robe already went to the south. Because he gave the Dharma and the robe, the transmission, secretly at midnight. And the person he gave it to was not yet the monk. He's not yet a sunim. So there were many people there, maybe over 500. And they're wondering why he's not coming to the assembly anymore, why he doesn't come for meals, why he's acting strangely. Then he said, I already gave the Dharma and the robe. And then they all asked, oh, who got the transmission? Then he said, the capable one got it. This is a little play on the meaning of the word huineng. He is capable. Wisdom is a capable. Huineng, you Koreans understand very well. Nungi har saram. Then they're really surprised. And when the sixth patriarch got to this Taiyu mountain, he noticed several hundred men were following him, were in pursuit. with the intention of robbing the robe and the bowl. So it's like right away they thought, if we can get the robe and the bowl, we can get this holy thing, we can get this Dharma. So they're running after him. And finally, there was a monk who catched up with him. And this monk was named Wei Ming, whose lay name was Chen. And he was a general of a 4th rank in lay life. That means he's like a general, like a 3-star general. Very high general. And finally he catch this 6th patriarch. And he was very, his manner was rough and his temper very hot. You understand this, right? And of all the pursuers, he was the most vigilant in search of me. And when he was about to overtake me, I threw the robe and the begging bowl on a rock and said, "This robe is nothing but a symbol. What's the use of taking it away by force?" I then hid myself. So he was he had a very good faith in the Dharma. So he's not attached to the robe. So he put the robe and the bowls on a rock. And he said, it's only symbol. What's the use of taking it away by force? And then he hid himself. And when he got to the rock, the monk, this means the monk whose name was Hui Ming, the general, who was a general before. He got to the rock, he tried to pick up the robe and the bowl. He tried to take them, but he found that he could not pick them up. What's happening here? They're very heavy. They're really heavy. And he's sweating. In some other book it says he's really sweating and really tried to pick it up. In this translation it doesn't say that. But in another book I read, it said he's like straining, like he's really tried to pick up this rope. It's very light. And he's sweat pouring down. And he's very afraid also. Then he calls out, lay brother, layman, I come for the Dharma, not for the rope. And then this Wei Ming came out from his hiding place and he sat on the rock. And then this general monk, he bowed. He said, please preach to me. Tell me, what's Dharma? Then he said, since you're coming for the Dharma, you must not think anything. Don't think anything, then I will teach you. Don't think anything at all. Completely clear your mind. Then he did this for some time, for considerable time. We don't know how long. Considerable time could be 1 hour, could be 30 minutes, could be 10 minutes, we don't know. Then 6th Patriarch looked at him and said, when you're not thinking good and not thinking bad, at that moment, what is your original face? When you not think good, nothing bad. What's your original face? As soon as he heard this, he at once became enlightened. But he further asked, apart from those esoteric sayings and ideas handed down by the Patriarch from generation to generation, are there any other esoteric teachings? What I tell you is not esoteric. If you turn your light inwardly, you will find what is esoteric within you. This is a very kind teaching. Very kind. Almost too kind. Because even though he got enlightenment, he then again asked, is there any other esoteric teaching? You know, here it is, we use the word esoteric. Do you understand this word esoteric? It's a little difficult for... esoteric. What does it mean? Can anybody tell me? Not so easy? Esoteric. What does that mean? Secret, yeah. And special. Secret and special. Not just secret, but some like very extraordinary teaching. But then what the sixth patriarch replied, he asked, are there any other special secret teachings? Then the sixth patriarch said, what I told you is not esoteric. It's not secret. It's not extraordinary. If you turn your light inwardly, you will find what is esoteric within you. So if you look inside yourself, you will find the true esoteric. Now, this is a very important point, very kind teaching, very kind. Then, in spite of my staying in Wongmu, I did not realize my self-nature. Thank you for your teaching. Now I'm like a person who drinks water and knows for himself whether it is cold or warm. Lay brother, you are now my teacher. So after he heard that, he understood his self-nature. Before, even though he stayed at the fifth patriarch's temple called Wongmu, he didn't understand his self-nature. Now he understands his self-nature. He said, thank you for your teaching. Now I'm like a person who drinks water and knows for himself whether it is cold or warm. And if you study any of the books on sun in Korea, on Chamsun, many of these come from here. Many of the point that is become later came from here. That later became teachings in Zen monastery, it come from here. This is the root. As I said in the last lecture, this is the root of Korean Sun. Yeah, Diamond Sutra and the Sutra of Huineng. And this most important point is under here. Again, there's some commentary by this Li Pingxie. The most important point in the teaching of the Zen school lies in the introspection or introversion, which means turning of one's own light to reflect inwardly. This means that we use the light of our mind light, not to go out, but to look inside, turn inside, not to go outside. But many people don't understand this point. They think that we are trying to cultivate our mind light so that it can go outside. They think our Zen is about the mind is going out and reaching many people and doing this kind of thing. But this is not what the sixth patriarch was teaching. He was teaching we turn the light of they turn this light inside, one owns light to reflect inwardly. And then they talk about the lamp. They said if you take, for example, if you take just a plain naked flame or light bulb, it will shine out. It will shine all over. It will not shine in one direction. Let's say I have, for example, let's say I have a light. This is a lighter. A tape recorder. MP3. Okay. Let's say I have the candle light in my hand. Let's say I'm holding a candle light. If I don't direct it, the light will go over everywhere, weakly. But if I put a shade around it, then it will go in just one area. So this is why nowadays we have these fluorescent lights, with not a good example, but in usual the light bulb, we put a shade on it. We have to put some kind of cover on it because the shade will direct the light just in one area. Keep the light in one area. And our habit is to let our mind light go out. Go out. Yeah, I have seen this many people. Well, they come to our temple, they come to our Zen center, and they will practice, they will get some energy. But as soon as they go back to the city or go back to their house, they let all their energy go out. It's all, even they practice in the temple, or they do some retreat, or they do some study, they cannot keep the energy inside. They cannot reflect this light inside. As soon as they go out, as soon as they get around other people, it's all going out, all going out. Now, why is that? Now it says here, very interesting, when we are engrossed with criticizing others, as is our habit, we hardly ever turn our thoughts on ourselves, and hence we scarcely know anything about ourselves. So this is the case with most people. They know everything about everybody else, and they know how to criticize everybody else, and how to understand who is the top level, who is this, but they don't know themselves, because this energy from their mind, this mind light, is all going out. It's all going out, and they are very good at criticizing other people, but they don't know themselves, their own mind. And this is a very important teaching here, because in China alone, thousands of Buddhists have attained enlightenment by acting in accord with this wise saying of the sixth patriarch. So after the sixth patriarch and this general monk, they meet. The general said, "Lay brother, you are now my teacher." And then the sixth patriarch said, "Then you and I are fellow disciples of the fifth patriarch. Take good care of yourself." And they separated. And after they separated, the sixth patriarch continued, and he went to So Kai. And again, these evil doers, he writes here, evil doers, meaning people who wanted to hurt him were following him. And people who want to hurt him and who are jealous of him, they followed him. So he had to take refuge in a place called Sui Wei, and he stayed with a party of hunters for 15 years. It's quite a long time. So for 15 years, he was not teaching the Dharma. He was just living with a group of hunters, and he had to live a very, not an easy life. He had to, sometimes he would just put vegetables in the pan where they cook their meat. And he would eat the vegetables, and he was able to eat the vegetables after they had been cooked with the meat. And when he would find living creatures that were caught, he would set them free. And so even though he lived with the hunters, he continued to live like a sunim, like a monk. But he was not teaching in public. 15 years he only was living by sort of on the outside of society, not in society, hidden from society. And one day, it came to me that I shouldn't live a secluded life all the time. It was time for me to propagate the Dharma. So after 15 years of living with the hunters and only eating vegetables that had been cooked with the meat, you can imagine maybe the vegetables had a little meat flavor, you know. But after this many years of living like this, you know, it's hard to believe he did not eat any meat. But after all these years, then finally he decided, it's time for me to propagate the Dharma. Now, how did he know that this was the right time? Just after waiting several years, maybe there were no more people trying to hurt him, trying to pursue him, and everything had become more calmed down, and he could come out. And then he went to Guangzhou, to this temple called Dharma Nature Temple. And interestingly enough, you can still see this temple in Guangzhou. There's if you go to China and you go to the city of Guangzhou, there is a temple known as the, I think, Guangzhou or something like that. And this is the temple where the sixth patriarch first came out of the hiding, and is known as the temple where the sixth patriarch cut his hair. Because until that time, he was the lay person. He was like you. He was not the sunim. And even though he received the Dharma and he was considered the sixth patriarch, he did not have the chance to become sunim. But when he went to Guangzhou, there is a temple where he finally cut his hair. And they still have the hair of sixth patriarch. They're keeping the hair there. So at that time, there was a bhikkhu, and he was a master of the Dharma, and he was lecturing on the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. And there were two bhikkhus arguing about a temple flag blowing in the wind, and one said the wind was moving, others said flag was moving. And they argued back and forth futilely. And finally, the sixth patriarch came. He came along, and he said, it's not the wind. It's not the flag that's moving. It's your minds that are moving. And they are very astounded. This is a revolution at that time for them. And the whole assembly was awed by what I said. And the bhikkhu Yen Sheng asked me to take a seat of honor and questioned me about various difficult points in the sutras. Then this sutra master, he asked the Huineng about some difficult points. And Huineng answer is very good. How could he know about sutra? He never studied sutra. He never went to Kangwon, to sutra school. He never learned the Chinese character. But he can answer very well about sutras. This means he had already attained this Dharma. Already he was enlightened. Even though he didn't study Chinese character, did not study sutra, he understood the essence, the essential Dharma of the sutras. And seeing that his answers were precise and accurate, and that they showed something more than book knowledge, he said to me, lay brother, you must be an extraordinary man. I was told long ago that the inheritor of the fifth patriarch's robe and Dharma had come to the south. Very likely you are that man. Then he said politely, yes. Then he's very interested, and he asked to show the assembly the robe and the bowl which I had inherited. And he further asked, what did the fifth patriarch teach me? And apart from a discussion on the realization of the true nature, he gave me no other instruction, nor did he refer to meditation and liberation. Now this is interesting. He never got instruction from the fifth patriarch in how to meditate. He was never told you must sit like this, you must follow your breathing, you must do insight meditation. He never did that. He never did meditation as we understand meditation, sitting meditation. And then the sutra master, he asked him, why not? Because that would mean two ways. Buddha Dharma does not have two ways. And he asked, what is the Buddhism without two ways? He explained, he replied, the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, which expounded explains that Buddha nature doesn't have two ways. And then he goes on to say that even one of those who commit the 5 parajika acts, or the 5 deadly sins, and who are ichintaktika, they would eradicate their element of goodness in their Buddha nature. But Buddha replied, there are two kinds of elements of goodness, the eternal and the non-eternal. Since Buddha nature is either neither non-eternal nor non-eternal, therefore their element of goodness is not eradicated. Now Buddhism is known as not having two ways. Okay? So this is a very important point. And this is why it said earlier in the sutra, if you don't understand your own mind, you don't understand your true self, even you read many books on Buddhism, you cannot understand Buddhism. But if you understand your mind, you understand your true self, then everything is teaching you Buddhism. Not only books. The sound of the birds, the sound of the dog barking, the rain coming down, the blue sky, everything teaching you Buddhism. This is an important point. So in Buddhism, there is not two ways. And if you look in many Korean temples, like you go to a Bomosa temple, there is a gate called Purimun, not two-way gate. There's not two ways in Buddhism. Either you attain just now at this point, or you don't attain. There's not some kind of we talk about liberation coming in the future because I practice like this. This is a people's thinking like that. And so the sixth patriarch, he said, even you do the 5 deadly sins, you still keep your Buddha nature. What are the 5 deadly sins? They are listed here. Patricide, matricide, setting the Buddhist order in discord, killing an arhat, and causing blood to flow from the body of Buddha. These are considered the 5 deadly sins, the 5 terrible things to do. Why are they terrible things to do? Yeah, of course, you kill your father, you kill your mother, and you make a problem for the Buddhist order, and you kill arhat, and you cause blood to flow from the body of a Buddha. These are 5 the worst things to do. Everybody understands that kill your mother, kill your father is a very bad thing to do. But even if somebody do those things, it doesn't change their Buddha nature. They still have the same Buddha nature. They still have the potential to get enlightenment. This is a point. So from the point of view of ordinary people, the component parts of a personality and factors of consciousnesses are 2 separate things. But enlightened people understand they are not dual in nature. So Buddha nature is non-duality. Okay, this is a little difficult to understand. That's why we must not think of good and bad. We must not have the right and wrong concept in our mind. Then we can understand this. This is like when we go through this gate, the not to gate. When we are walking through the not to gate, we cannot have the right and wrong and the good and bad. So the Bhikkhu Yenchung was very pleased with my answer, and he put his 2 palms together as a sign of respect. And he said, my interpretation of the sutra is as worthless as a pile of debris, trash, while your discourse is as valuable as genuine gold. And at that point, he conducted the ceremony of hair cutting for the 6th patriarch. And the sutra master, who was a much older monk, he asked him to be accepted him as his student. That's very unusual. Usually for the older, more educated bhikkhu to ask the one who just became ordination to be his teacher, that's very unusual. Don't you think so? This is like the new professor is suddenly the older professor asks him, please be my teacher. Then after that, under the Bodhi tree, he preached the 6th patriarch. I preached the teaching of the Tungshan school, the school of the 4th and the 5th patriarchs who lived in Tungshan mountain. So the 4th and the 5th patriarchs, they both lived in this Tungshan mountain, and the Dharma was transmitted to the 6th patriarch on Tungshan mountain. So he called that the school of the 4th and the 5th patriarchs. And he said, since that time when the Dharma was transmitted, I have gone through many hardships, and my life often seemed to be hanging by a thread. Do you understand what that means? His life was hanging by a thread, meaning he felt like his life was almost taken. So even though we all think it's wonderful that somebody get the Dharma transmission and become the Zen master or become the patriarch. But for many people, once they became the Dharma master, once they got the transmission, their life was in danger. Their life was threatened. It was not as easy as we imagine it to be. We think somebody who is a Zen master or get the Dharma, they have a good life. Everybody respect them. Everybody bow to them. But actually, there are just for all those people, for everybody who respect, there are also many people who are jealous and angry and wish that they did not have the Dharma and who sometimes threaten them. So today I have the honor of meeting you and in this assembly, and I said that I have subscribed this to our good connections in previous kalpas, as well as to our common accumulated merits in making offerings to various Buddhas in our past incarnations. Otherwise, we should have no chance of hearing the above teachings of the Southern School. But at this point, I stop today. Any question or any commentary? Okay.